Passing 200 meters. Oxygen efficiency greatly decreased.
So this is gonna be my first review, and I just thought I would do it on my favorite game, Subnautica, because I was recently replaying it, and I thought this review would suit my editing style a little better than what I do normally, and it's a good way to showcase who I am, but also know that none of this shit about that sound designer is going to be a part of this video. It's just not. I don't want controversy. I just don't want that a part of my shit. And also, this is my opinion, so it could be completely different from yours, and that's great. We can all have our own opinions, right? Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. So we'll start with a spoiler-free introduction to the game if you haven't played it already, and if you want to play it, we'll have a spoiler warning before any of the shit that would have spoilers in it starts, obviously. So, your character was a part of the crew aboard the Aurora, which was just a spaceship that got, grounded. And your goal is simply to survive and get off this planet. Seeing leftover bases and remnants and, life pods of the crew that crashed on this planet. And then seeing more and more horrors of the deep. Now there are 5 main types of players on this game. There are the builders, who make just giant superstructures. There's the biologists, who want to scan and read all the information. That's me. And then there's the explorers, who just want to see all the new areas and see every nook and cranny and map it all out. There's the horror enthusiasts that just enjoy torturing themselves to these giant monsters. And then there are the lore enjoyers that know what's going on. Average gamer, noob, and swimmer, and role player, and the... Dear fucking god. But let's get back on track here. Games like Subnautica can be split into 3 different categories: early, mid, and late game. But Subnautica has to make it engaging for all 3 phases. How does Subnautica do? Well, in short, early game can really get you hooked with all the cinematics and the beautiful water in the shallows. It looks really good. It gets you invested really early. I say early game ends by the time you get Seamoth. Finally Seamoth. But, your trusty steed for most of the game, unless you're like me, and I basically used it for like 3 fucking hours. But, again, getting back off track. So, I think the reason why this game has a really good early game is because the freshness of starting a new world is like the Minecraft effect when you start a new world, and it's just really fun. Like, it's really fun to see where your base can go and all that type of shit before it even starts. And I will say, though, that the game gets significantly less scary the more you play it. Like, I mean, I have gotten my shit pushed in by a stalker and just freaked the fuck out. But it's never been that bad. Mid-game is where I'd put the bulk of the game, where you're just going around the life pods, going around to the Aurora, going around to the islands, meeting these new friends of yours, the Reaper Leviathans. You'll also meet different creatures and new biomes, but I will say that this is the peak of fear in the game. Being surrounded by darkness and hearing the roars of these things is scary in such a unique way. But this is where I introduce the glitches. So, Subnautica has this problem with all of the fucking glitches and how they're just the worst. Okay, they're not that bad, but it really ruins your immersion and shit. when you just see this fucking spinning goddamn reaper or slingshotting fucking like eels and fucking glade. I'm leaving that in. Fuck it. Blade particles. Like what? But now we also got phasing leviathans. What? What is happening? And also just the ecological dead zone not working, which is just fucking what? Let's move on before I pop a blood vessel.
The radiation.
Late game is where you go under about 600 meters down. And I won't talk about it much yet because the Lost River is my favorite areas, and the lore and the stories and everything down there is so fun to read, and I don't want to spoil that. But the big problem down there is the Leviathans are just not scary. They can give you a good spook if they sneak up on you, but it's not very horrifying, which sucks like all of the terror that came into the middle game. Middle game. That sounds so fucking weird. Mid game. We'll fix it. There you go. Mid game. I fixed it. Because the terror in the mid game was just really fucking good. Like, the horror of hearing a Leviathan roar in the distance is just gone now because it's like just not terrifying. But I do give it a pass in this regard because it swaps the terror for a more curious type of mood where you're more interested in solving the mysteries the game has set up. Okay, so I'm going into the spoilers. So, spoiler warning right now. If you are interested in playing this game and haven't yet, click off this video now. I'm going to be a lot less careful. I'm just going to be spilling my mind about these things. So, this is your official warning. Just feel free to go. It's not going to hurt my feelings. It's all good. And I don't want to spoil the surprises from early to mid game because those are really fun. Also late game, but you know. Like, I just don't want to spoil these for you. They're really fun. Okay, so I'm going to go down the list of notes I made while playing this game, and I'm just going to tackle them one at a time to keep this video in some sort of structure. This is my first review, so it's going to be a lot less structured than any other reviews you've seen. So it's going to be really awkward. So let's just tackle it one at a time. So we got sound design, low-made PDA entries, alien creatures, base building, micromanagement, Desagi crew is interesting, glitches, different ending, in quotes, low amount of base spots, alien architect story, the problem with starting, which is really poorly phrased, the vehicles, and the terror. So, obviously, we're starting with the sound design. It's amazing. It's a true jam, and everything about it sounds really iconic. From the explosions, the sunbeams, and aurora, and the roars of the bone sharks, and like the sand sharks, and the reapers, it's all good.
Flagged emergency speed.
Like, I can't overstate how good it is, but I'm gonna move on because it's like stating that the sky is blue. It's just obvious. The PDA entries are one of my favorite parts of the game. I'll start with my least favorite and try to go up the tier list, but it's going to be a lot less good. The geological shit is just boring to me. Not the fucking crater shit, mind you, just the outcrops. The craters are very interesting to me. The PDAs and the plans are very well thought out, and they're really cool, and I really like reading about them. And it's really exemplified by the sequel's really bad PDA entries, and I just get really sad. The animal PDAs are my favorite, and it's so interesting to see the bones of these dead animals and try to piece together how they died. It's really thrilling. That's me sounding psychotic. But it gives you insight into their hunting habits and maternal instincts and all that shit. Okay, we're going to try and get back to a structure. I'm sorry. The aliens, the fish, not the architects, are very fun and designed really cool. And the most boring designs are still very inspired and incredibly interesting. I'm looking at you, bone sharks. And to read about these aliens and just look at them, they're really cool. And I really like how they added the alien containment to look at these things. It's cool. My personal favorite is the ghost ray and the crab snake. They're just so amazing to look at. And I love the symbiotic relationship between the crab snake and their glowing shrooms. Base building is like kind of grid based. And by that I mean like you put down a certain building and then you're kind of stuck on a certain type of grid on that. And you can only go in the 4 directions, which is kinda lame, but like I get why. And the pain here is that it's kinda pointless to do it on some other parts of the map. It does make it more replayable, but I feel like it's just a waste of time. But I'll talk about it more in the other segment about base building. Alright, I might sound different. I just got back from stuff. Alright, so micromanagement is a big part of the game, and you'll always have like 5 tasks to do unless it's the mid game, where it can really slow down and just make people quit. But when you do have 5 tasks to do, it makes it really interesting because it's kind of like a build your own adventure, because every different task you choose to do will really change how your game goes out. So like, for example, you could go to the Aurora and get all that shit, and then not have to do that for the rest of the game, and then you can focus on other shit. I don't know. It's more complicated than that, but I'm fucking autistic. The Desagi crew is kind of strange for me, because like, I want to just talk about them in below zero, but honestly, I think it's better to just talk about him here. So, the crew is kind of one note, but it is really nice to hear something in the background while you're just swimming around that doesn't involve immediate fucking death, except for, you know, at the very end. But, I don't know, it's really comforting to hear them bickering and shit while you're just swimming around in the fucking deep darkness. And it's also cool to find their remnants and figure out their story and how it ended. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, here we go. We found the glitches. I got here a lot faster than I think it would be, and I don't think I'm ready anymore. But fuck, where to start? The glitches are just awful, man. They can span from annoying to straight run ending. I will state right here, and right now, I have never played through the game on hardcore. The last playthrough, I would have died maybe only twice though. And that's only because I needed to get clips of the dead zone, but they just stopped coming. Like, I got so far out, I guess, and it wasn't even that far out. It was like an extra like 500 meters out, and the ghost leviathans just stopped showing up. And then I also was trying to get to the last part of the game and just got slapped by a fucking sea dragon. I was at the last base of the game, slapped by a sea dragon, and it clipped me out of the map, which is game ending. Like, yeah, granted, I could have maybe swam all the way back to my Cyclops and just made a new prawn suit, but that's a big maybe because I was at the very end of the game and I left my fucking Cyclops at the entrance to the fucking magma zone. There was like very little chance I was gonna make it all the way back without dying. And then there's the fucking, there's just some of the dumbest shit that breaks your immersion. And granted, like, they're not the worst. Like spinning leviathans, slingshotting eels, and I've already said this already, the different ending in quotations, because it's not really a different ending, but you can change the outcome of the sunbeam, which is the ship that comes to help you, and then
set thrusters to full.
there you go. Like, it's pretty obvious that they're going to fucking die in most playthroughs. But if you go through the entire game without doing their radio transmission, where they start the countdown and then get blown to smithereens, then there's a different audio log that they send over, and it's just them saying that there's a debris field and they can't help you at all, which is cool because, you know, now they're not dead.
Survivors, this is trading ship Sunbeam. We've tracked your distress signal, but your ships left a substantial debris field up in orbit, and we can't attempt a landing. We're gonna have to head home. We'll send our data to Altera as soon as we can. Hold on in there. Sunbeam out.
So, the low amount of base spots needs a little bit more context, because you can build your base anywhere you really want. The problem is that there's no point to building them there. And I would pin the blame of this on the Cyclops just being good. Like, the Cyclops is so good because you can just put a ton of lockers in it and go on long fucking trips over to some random part of the map you don't need to be in, and then just transfer it over to your main base, which is what I do. I only had 2 bases in my main playthrough, the Lost River base and the Shallows base, which wasn't even, like, this playthrough, I didn't even do much in the Shallow base. I literally just played out of it until I could go into the Lost River and then moved everything out of it. It's just that there's no point in building anywhere else. Like, it's fun, it's cool. I like watching these videos about making a fucking base in the ecological dead zone. Those are cool. It's just rather pointless if you want to beat the game, which is fine. But like, I think they could have dealt with the Cyclops being really good for long trips better, so you could kind of, you know, need to build more bases than that. But it's fine for what it is. The Alien Architect story is one of my favorites because you can kind of see how their descent into madness happened. Like, you can see how they first started off with like trying minor medical trials, and then they elevated to fucking kidnapping baby leviathans, or, you know, their eggs, and then they just kidnapped a straight up fucking leviathan, which is just so fucking funny. Like, they went from 0 to 100 real fucking quick. My personal favorite is the yin yang symbol. I don't know why, I just really like the idea that, like, they just present that maybe all societies have to have some concept of yin and yang, or they came to our planet and like all the pyramid shit is just fucking true. I don't know, I like it. It's pretty cool, and I like how they let you draw your own conclusions from it. So the problem starting the game is worded just horribly. Like, so this is a good time to mention that I wrote this script over like days, and this has been a long process because I want to find the right wording because this is my favorite game. I want to do this right. But I worded this so bad, and I just, in my script, it just says that, and I had no idea what the fuck was happening. And then I had to sit down and think about this for a solid like 5 minutes, and I realized what I meant is that when you start playing the game, when you're fresh and new to the game. So, when you're fresh and new to the game, there's a problem with it, which I could be wrong about, but honestly, when I was playing with my friend, he just had trouble finding out where to fucking go. And I think that was a problem with everyone. Like, a lot of the bad reviews on Subnautica come from just not knowing where to fucking go, and feeling very aimless towards the mid-game, which is kind of the game's fault. Like, they have one area that they point you to where you could go down deeper into like the last area of the game, but they don't point you down there. You just kind of have to eventually wander. But it's in the crab squid den, which is the reason why you'd go down there is because of the Desagi crew base. And the thing is by that point you probably went down there with a sea moth if you're like me. So you're not going to be venturing down deeper and deeper from there, and you're not expecting to go into an entirely new area from there. It just wouldn't really compute very well, unless you're just exploring around and then you just happen to find it, and then you're like, maybe I should explore this later. And there is one other place to go down there, and that's the place I use. My friend uses the crab squid den, but I use the, I don't know what to call it. It's just like some hole next to where you get the multiple Leviathan class life forms in this area. And that's where I go, because it's a lot easier to get down from there. But yeah, I think it's really hard to get someone invested in this fucking game if, you know, they can't figure out what the fuck they're doing and they just feel stupid. Also, if you heard my background, that's my dog. Alright, let's continue. I normally wouldn't give vehicles their own segment in a game like this. It's like giving a cart on Valheim its own fucking segment. But I feel like this is completely different because Subnautica has a very intertwined progression system with the vehicles. And I think that the progression of the game mostly entirely revolves around the vehicles, because you can't really go down deeper unless you have a vehicle to give you air. So, well, like, I like the sea moth. I think it's really good. I think it's really cool to have this tiny little submarine to just fly around, but it's super fucking easy to break. I think that's a good start for the game. I like the Cyclops. I think they should have made it so it couldn't take too many lockers, so you can, you know, be forced to make bases all over the place, and it would make it more inhabited, I guess. And I think it would be really cool. But I can see why they didn't do that. That seems kind of painful for a lot of reasons. I really love the prawn suit because it just changes everything and flips it on its head, because you're obviously stuck to the ground with this thing, and it makes running away from leviathans really fucking hard. But it's one of the tankiest vehicles in the game. I mean, there's only 2, so I hope it is. But yeah, I really enjoy that in the last part of the game, where magma is surrounding you, you have to be stuck to the ground, jumping over lava and shit. Like, you can jump, but like, you're not weightless, like with the fucking Seamoth and the Cyclops, which really flips the game on its head. And lastly, we have the Terror. Honestly, I went through this a lot, because like that's a big part of the game. Subnautica's in this weird state where since I'm just running around doing random shit, and there's these offset moments of pure levity where you're just kind of having a good time building bases, it makes these points where you hear,
"Warning, entering ecological dead zone. Adding report to databank."
or
"Detecting multiple Leviathan class life forms in the region. Are you certain whatever you're doing is worth it?"
fucking horrifying. What do you think about when that happens? It's terrifying. When you first hear that shit, not see that shit, but you know, hear that shit, it's fucking scary. You fucking pop a blood vessel just turning around, because most people, you know, are rational and don't want to be fucking face to face with multiple Leviathan class life forms or in an ecological dead zone, because that's fucking horrifying. And like, it's even worse when it's at night, which I was able to avoid because I just put a bed in my Cyclops. But at night, it is fucking horrifying to just be in this void of water, and all you hear is a fucking Leviathan roar, and then just seeing something slowly approach you from the distance and not having any time to react. It's horrifying, man. So now that I've gone through all my points and all my opinions, what does this random idiot online have for his arbitrary review? Is it a moist meter? Is it, I don't know, ball licking 557? Bangins? Or, you know, well, I'm actually going to go with the iDubbbz approach and say that was 7 high Hitlers out of 11. Said wrong. I don't know how I said that wrong. I literally rehearsed that in my brain beforehand. I was like, I shouldn't fucking say this because people are not going to take it as a fucking joke. But I'm going to say it anyway because it's really fucking funny. At least in my head. But I fucking fucked it up, and I'm leaving it in because this is fucking hilarious that I just fucked it up that bad. So, for real, I'm going to give it an 8 or maybe 9 out of 10. Which is weird because I said it's my favorite game of all time, and I should give it a 10 out of 10. So what's the deal for those people who actually paid attention to the beginning? Here, have a cookie. The reason why I give it that is because it's not a perfect game. I don't think any game reaches that. And what makes a game your favorite game is something that has its flaws, but you can look past it because the rest of the game is so great to you. So that's what I'm doing, because yeah, I can get pissed about these dumb fucking glitches that happen all the time, and yeah, I can get pissed by the progression system being a little off the fucking rack. I don't know what do the hip kids say these days? I'm fucking 18. I don't know why I'm playing the old man, but I'm gonna have to retrack this fucking train that's just been being wobbled off because I'm a fucking ape and I just can't keep a script. What's funny is that I write these scripts out, right? These are scripts that are completely written out for me, but I go off script because it sounds more authentic, right? So I fucking I stutter and I fumble and I mumble and I fuck it up, but most of the time I just leave it in because it makes it sound like I'm being a lot more authentic. And I really hated how I sounded really robotic in a lot of takes in my first video. Not the one with the Warwick shit, the one with the Kazeeks. The Kazeeks were dummies. I sounded really robotic in a lot of takes. I hated it, so I redid them so many times, just trying to make it sound authentic. But again, I'm getting off track here. So look past your game's negatives, and, you know, you're going to have a good time with it. If you can look past the game's negatives, it's probably your favorite game, because why would you look past them if you really didn't care about what was inside? You know what I mean? But, one last thing before I go. I fucking hate you. Yeah, the motherfucker who gave me cured fish and water as a fucking time capsule. I put ion batteries in the fucking mine, and this motherfucker can't give me a single, I don't know, thermal blade like this other fucking guy did. I mean, I guess I would have 2 thermal blades, but it's more useful than this motherfucker who gave me a goddamn 2 cured fish. Literally never touched them until like the very end, when I was too lazy to go outside and get some fish. That's what happened. Fucking hate that guy.